Spencer Rattler comes out hot, but not too hot. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Hebert,
son, where'd you
Mike
find
Haas,
this?
WWL Sports. All right, they are at training camp. So this is the first report we are getting from training camp. What the hell happened to my headset? This is the first report we are getting from training camp. So yesterday, day 0, or whenever you're seeing this, Tuesday was day 0. Wednesday, truly day 1. Pads are on. Players are out there running around, letting it rip. Reports early that Rattler looked pretty damn sharp. So let's hear what the Cajun Cannon has to say here.
And Bobby Hebert, 1 in the books. First practice of training camp 2025. Don't get, caught off by the humidity and the cloudy days. Heat is coming, but they caught a break today.
Oh, I think it was awesome. I mean, overcast. If the weather was like this every day, we would never come inside. I mean, I thought, I said 115 heat index. I said, there's no way they can want the fans out there. But the sun wasn't out. It was great. The weather cooperated. And I always know when it's too hot is when I'm standing in the shade and I'm not moving and I'm just sweating. I said, why am I sweating? No, it wasn't like that. It was nice. I think they got a lot done. To start off practice, you always want to look who's going to take the first rep. And I think I would have. This is what I would have bet on. It would have been the Vegas favorite that Spencer Rattler would have taken the first rep as a starter because I think he's earned that. Tyler Shough just came on.
Yeah, we've mentioned this a few times. I think you got to be careful if you're Kellen Moore, and you got to be careful if you're the coaching staff of how you play this thing. And to me, the least risky scenario is let Rattler be the one to start and go from there. It's harder to work backwards if Shough is the one and then he struggles and Rattler replaces him, and then when do you make the next move? I think it's way easier to just start everything with Rattler leading the charge, and then you pivot and adjust as need be. It's also important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this ain't minicamp. Okay, this is not a situation where it's not like you're going to hear blank player is 9 for 9, blank player is 10 for 10, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, the defense is playing now. Like, there is scheme. I mean, not today, but there will be schemes. There will be packages that they haven't seen before. There will be ramped up intensity. So there's going to be struggles, and that's okay. All right, both from Rattler and Shough. If you hear a day where Spencer throws 3 interceptions, that's not all she wrote. If you hear a day that Shough throws 3 interceptions, don't cancel your Tyler Shough jerseys. All right, your pre-orders. We got to let this thing play out. It's going to be a long road. Okay, this is going to go all through training camp. You will not get a push notification in the next 2 weeks saying Saints name blank player starter. This is going to go all through training camp, and then when the preseason hits, that's when we're going to really see that final exam for both players.
On board, Spencer Rattler was here last year, and so I'm looking first rep. They even go, with Spencer Rattler up tempo, no huddle, running a couple of plays. Really, a couple of nice plays. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they ran. Oh, they're just going to be a run drill, but no. Then they ran like a throwback screen to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That'd have been a 12 to 15-yard gain. So off to a great start. Now Shough's first rep, I think they get back in the huddle. I don't know what play he called or their lineman, but that the re-huddle.
They kind of threw a short one, like a one-hopping pass, and they said, let's just do that one again.
Yeah. And so
yeah, I mean, that's going to, those are the kind of things where now it's not just put the shirt and shorts on and go out there and spin the pill. It's not just 7-on-7. It's not just, letting it rip. Now it's the whole thing. Now it's running the offense in and out of the huddle, getting your alignment right, getting the offensive line where they need to be, snaps, just everything. Play action's more serious. There's a run game involved. Everything is more real now. Even the timing, right? Before receivers aren't getting jammed, before there's no offensive line, before you can see or no defensive line, you can see the whole field. It's spread out. Now it's a little more congested. Now it's ramped up. All right, so all those little things now come into play.
I would say, listen, they constantly get graded, and when I look at today, Spencer Rattler won the day. So you can chalk it up one, because the coaches are doing that. Now, not much competition until they get in the pads and all, but just based on what occurred today, the pocket presence, I thought at times Tyler Shough 2 or 3 times he's scrambling. It was like 7-on-7. The ball needs to come out. You don't want to be scrambling then.
Yeah, we talked about that before, where it is good to be able to extend plays. It is good to be able to do that. But when that is default, that's bad news bears, right? That's the Caleb Williams syndrome, where, yeah, it's cool that he has those highlights, but you don't always want – that was a big problem with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. A little sidebar here. When Sean Payton was in Denver, or when Russell Wilson was in Denver, Sean wants his play to be run the way he called it. If you have to improv, whatever, but Russell was taking way too long and extending plays and kind of going off script, and that really caused a rift with him and Peyton. So it's cool you can do it, but you also have to play on script as well.
So I would say Spencer Rattler definitely had the edge. Look at Rattler, a couple of big plays that I thought you're going to see more likely happen numerous times during the season, like Juwan Johnson, an outside route. That had been 12 to 15-yard completion. Chris Olave over the middle, plus 15. So I think hopefully Juwan Johnson stays healthy, Chris Olave stays healthy, because I think they're going to be a big part of what we're trying to do offensively.
Yeah, I know everyone's going to be talking about the quarterbacks, but it is also important when you get these reports, like what is Juwan Johnson doing? What is Chris Olave doing? Because we keep saying, or we have said for months, we think Juwan Johnson is going to play more of this like hybrid pseudo receiver, pseudo tight end kind of a tweener kind of player. So will we see that in training camp, or is he a tried and true tight end? Will some of the hypotheticals and some of what we were thinking might happen, will it actually happen? Same with Chris Olave, where, okay, we expect him to play this certain way. Is he actually being asked to do that?
I thought the play of the day was, and there wasn't much play. There was no bombs or anything, but Hayner to Michael Jacobson. That was a nice catch. You could see he's a basketball player. He high point.
See, we've been sitting here talking about Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, Chris Olave, we should have been talking about Jake Hayner and Michael Jacobson.
The ball, that was down the middle. That would have been like a plus 25-yard gain. But overall, it was kind of like what you expect the first day. I thought there's a little pep in their step. You never want to see turnovers or the ball on the ground a lot. And I'm a fan. I'm cheering for him because all the adversity he's faced, because I think he could play Cam Akers. He ends up fumbling, and there's no pass. So it's like the defense got all excited. They got to the ball. So it went.
Yeah, can't be doing that, Cam. That's a good way to. It's a good way to get eliminated.
Too many, negative plays, but that's what I would say. That you look at the quarterback all the time, because the fans want to know, okay, who's actually looking better out there. I would say Spencer Rattler looked more poised today than Tyler Shough did.
To be expected. This is Rattler's second go-round of this, right? All this is brand spanking new for Shough. It's also important to remember that there is kind of a warm-up period with training camp. First day, second day, kind of install, kind of hanging out, kind of ramping up a little bit here. Friday is probably going to be that first, true day, and then you just keep on ramping all the way to preseason, where you're now in basically a game environment where the other, it's not your teammates, and they're trying to lay the wood. So, yeah, it's not going to be. It's not going to be day one where they're crushing each other and hitting and all this. That doesn't happen, right? So you got to ramp up to it, especially with how much of an emphasis this coaching staff has put on longevity and making sure the players are injury free. So, yeah, I mean, the physicality and all of that is not here on day one, and it shouldn't be.
Finally, I want to stay on the quarterbacks. It's day one, so let's just stay on it because, Kellen Moore says you'd like to have that guy kind of picked out prior to the Chargers. But the reality is it's 7-on-7. It's 11-11 against your guys until the Chargers. Right. So having a guy separate himself prior to those preseason is going to be difficult.
Only way it's going to happen, the only way there's going to be a real separation is if – I think we know what Spencer Rattler is going to deliver at this stage of training camp because he's already done it. The only way there's going to be a real separation is if Shough is – truly overwhelmed by the process of the NFL and truly overwhelmed by just the smaller things like the huddle and just, if it's too much too fast and he needs a little bit of time to grow into the role, which, could happen. So I think that's the only way that it's just, okay, it's obviously way too early for him. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, I would be surprised if either player truly separated themselves until we get into preseason, until we see some of these drives, until we see some of the actual competition, some of the actual like defensive schemes and the pressure and the blitz packages and all of that. As long as they're in the red jerseys, as long as they're untouched, as long as it's their teammates, it's like, you can only, you're grading on a curve the entire time. But when it's, okay, now you're in the fire, now you can sort of kind of draw some conclusions there. And you got to take the entire data set, right? Like everything that's happening today, tomorrow, the next day, it's all data. All right. So once we see the whole picture and you start to see preseason, that's when it's like, all right, what we're seeing in preseason, does that connect? Does the data connect to what we saw in training camp? And does that connect to what we saw in minicamp, right? So you got to kind of let it all play out before we're really drawing these conclusions for either player.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
and
it's
in
going to
any
be difficult.
position.
That's why I don't know. It's a lack of confidence. Why aren't we practicing against the Chargers? I don't know. We're out there. To me, I know as a player, you're always tired against going against one another. You want a little change of pace, but they're going to have the preseason game. I would think it'd be in our best interest as far as the Saints organization that not so much who the starter before the Chargers game, but after the Chargers game, it starts to be the middle of the month.
You got to have a guy. You got to have a guy.
That hopefully, and you're looking at what's that?
Yeah, I think you have to have your guy at least a couple weeks before. Like I keep hearing, like, oh, they'll name a starter like the weekend of game one. No, that I don't think so. I think it's going to be relatively early into preseason. Now it could change, but I think we'll know going into preseason. Going into the regular season towards the end of preseason. I think it'll be like, all right, this is our guy, and then a couple weeks of build up with that whoever it is as the number one. As okay, this is our starting quarterback. Because you got a whole team, you have a whole roster. Keeping this thing a secret and play, rotating nonstop and just you don't know who the quarterback is, you don't know who to listen to, you don't know who the starter is, you don't know who to get your timing down with. So it's just detrimental at that point, I think, to the entire team to extend it all the way to right up against week one. So yeah, I fully expect pretty quick into preseason we get that starter name.
3 weeks from now, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and then that someone will
That's
separate.
about right.
And the preseason game against the Chargers could be very important. And it's going to be constantly important when they put on the pads, finally, what we said on Monday?
Yep, Monday the
And
28th.
then we get to see them compete and who's standing out there. So right now you can't say no one really has the edge, but Spencer Rattler definitely, I'd say, look more poised out there today compared to Tyler Shough.
SoFi and the Chargers are home away from home. So we're going to have a special one-on-one interview with Steve Geller and Bobby with Demario Davis. Also hear from Chris Olave. Lots more coming your way on Sports Talk today. WWLAMFM.com.
There you go. Yeah, all these updates, everything coming out, we're going to be on top of and trying to get the information out there as soon as possible. A lot of good guys doing work out there. I know it's hot out there on Airline Drive, man. All these content creators and radio stations, TV stations out there putting in the work. So kudos, tip of the cap from the face of the franchise. But yeah, right now it feels good, man. It feels good that we're ramping up. It feels like it just feels like that momentum is building. Like as the players got there yesterday and we saw them walking into the facility and walking into through the parking lot and all that, you could just feel the momentum. And now today, seeing them carrying pads and a helmet or carrying whatever, you get out there and doing some drills and doing some light work and whatever, ramping up, and you can feel that momentum from the fans. And then Thursday, same thing. Friday, okay, now it's getting a little more intense. Okay, now we're getting into it. We're starting to get that sweat going, that flop sweat going, right? And then boom, all of a sudden, Monday next week, okay, now we're really getting intense, right? We had that. I remember in high school, we used to start school every year on a Thursday. And we'd start school on Thursday, and we'd have Thursday, Friday, and then you have the weekend. And then when Monday comes around, boom, okay, now it's real, right? Thursday and Friday was meet the teachers. Here's your desk. Here's where your classes are. Here's your locker, whatever. Nothing too strenuous. Homework's not really a thing. It's just a bunch of get this sign, get that sign. But when you come back around on Monday, now it's time, right? Same thing here. In this case, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is more of that. All right, let's get some signatures. Figure out where your locker is. And I can't wait, man. I can't wait. It's just so exciting. It's just so exciting for this to finally be here and for football to finally be upon us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, day 1 Rattler, 0 Shough. There you go. The scoreboard has begun. Will it be the Rat Daddy? Will it be Shough if you buck? We'll find out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.